Thank you, Jesse. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are, and welcome again to our FY25 Leadership Development Program information session for the Leadership Enrichment and Progression Program, otherwise known as LEAP. As Jesse said, my name is Simone Conforto, and I am the Chief of the Leadership Development Directorate within the Learning and Development Division here in the Office of Human Capital Services. And I will be taking you through the beginning of today's presentation this afternoon. So during our time together today, we'll of course discuss LEAP, and we're going to be covering program staff, eligibility for the program, provide an overview of the program objectives and methodology, and review the application process and timeline. And then lastly, we will provide an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you may have and leave you with our contact information. Please feel free throughout the duration of this call to put any questions you have in the chat. I will certainly be monitoring the chat as we go, and we'll answer them as many as possible. And then, of course, we will put together an FAQ for all of the questions for you to refer to after the fact. So as I'm sure you know, VBA is committed to developing the 21st century leaders to meet the needs of our 21st century veterans, as well as meet the needs of the future work within our federal government. So in alignment with the department's core leadership competencies, our leadership programs are meant to enrich our participants' leadership knowledge and competencies by engaging them in critical thought, independent and group learning activities, as well as some other ongoing assignments, which you'll hear more about today. So if you're a GS 13 or 14 who wants to become a better first line supervisor and explore what comes next in your leadership journey, and you're really ready to challenge yourself to grow personally and professionally, then I really think LEAP might be the right fit for you. So during the LEAP program, you're going to meet successful VBA senior leaders and apply proven leadership concepts to lead teams and prepare for more responsibility. During the program, you're going to explore the importance of strategic thinking, decisiveness, and accountability while learning strategies for resilience. This program really does enrich and empower you to lead change in VBA and be focused on results while you prepare to confidently leap into the next stage of your professional career. So I really, really hope you do consider applying for this program. So this is just a photo from our last LEAP cohort, our FY24 graduates, and they really was such a special group, and just want to note how about 25% of our participants have already received promotions either throughout the duration of the program or since graduating and working on building those skills. So definitely is proven to have some ability to help you start to navigate and determine where you can grow from here. Next slide, please. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the program manager of LEAP, Miss Elizabeth Pravat. She is a learning management officer here in the Leadership Development Directorate. And the role of the program manager really is to keep the program running smoothly. And she'll be checking in with participants regularly on the progress towards various program milestones. So with that said, Ms. Pravat, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Simone, and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited to see this large group here interested in the program. Before we get too much into the details about what the program entails, let's talk about some basic eligibility first to make sure that you are eligible to apply to the program. So first of all, we are opening this program to current GS 13s and 14s. And if you are a regional office employee, we do ask that you have at least 1 year of supervisory experience when applying to the program. If you are a central office employee, that is not a requirement. We ask that all applicants have been employed for VBA for at least 1 year by the time the applications close, which is going to be the end of February. And then we are going to look for at least a fully successful or better in the last 2 performance evaluations. And we will be collecting your performance evaluations within the application portal just to validate that. And we want to make sure that you can commit at least 45 days to a developmental detail assignment. There could be travel involved with this detail depending on funding availability, but we just want to make sure that you can set aside those 45 days in order to commit to that detail. Now, it is worth noting that selection into the program and completion of the LEAP program does not guarantee any type of promotion. It is rather simply a means to grow your skill set and expose and grow your network of connections. So let's talk about some of the program objectives and what you can expect to get out of this program. One of the big first steps you'll do early on in the program is to create an individual development plan. And the activities that you put into this plan are going to be related to the leadership development framework that VA has, as well as VBA, and OPM leadership competencies. We want to make sure that the activities that you are engaging in really connect to the competencies that the agency is looking for in our leaders. And to also complement that, you'll undergo a 360 evaluation to really get a sense of where your gaps lie, and you can further ensure that your activities seek to fulfill those gaps. We'll also talk throughout the program about the Undersecretary for Benefits strategic goals and objectives, and again, align your activities with those goals and objectives to make sure that you are growing in a manner that supports the agency's direction. You'll have an opportunity to deliver executive level briefings at the conclusion of the program. And this is, of course, any leader is going to have those strong public speaking skills. And so your preparation for this briefing, as well as the briefing itself, will help you with effective communication, collaboration, influence, and trust building throughout the program. You'll also have an opportunity to develop new skills that will push you beyond your current capacity. And this will come in the form of a 45 to 60-day developmental detail. You'll also have a 2-week shadowing rotation and a mentoring relationship that you can engage in and lean on through the duration of the program. And in many cases, those mentoring relationships flourish such that they continue beyond the program. So all of these activities are, of course, pending budgetary approval, which as of now we do have, but of course is subject to change. So I mentioned the VBA Leadership Development Framework. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about that. That framework is a ladder formula. So it starts out with an emerging leader, goes all the way up to a senior leader, and it really outlines the traits and the competencies that leaders at various levels should display. The LEAP focus is surrounding the first line supervisor as well as the manager levels. So those are really middle of the road performance or career competencies. The specific competencies we focus on and create program around for our program are shown on the screen here. That includes resilience, strategic thinking, accountability, decisiveness, technical credibility, and political savvy. The way in which we help you grow and identify where you need to maybe grow the most or what skills you're already very strong in is shown here on the methodologies section. So that includes the 360-degree evaluation that I mentioned. So you'll get input and perspective from those at your current level, so your peers, those above you, and those below you, so that you can really get that well-rounded input about your current skill sets. I mentioned the mentor partnership, but that is really key in having that mirror to help you see a greater perspective and really have that sounding board and the safe space where you can share perspectives and get guidance and advice from a more senior leader. The individual development plan will guide your activities and your growth, the way in which you grow during the program. Of course, the 45-day developmental detail, the 2-week shadow assignment, executive interviews. So you'll have some candid conversations with current seasoned executives to help learn about their journey and things that you might have questions of them about. And then a leadership book. So the program does involve looking at a book that you'll discuss together as a group with your peers. and also monthly intersessions and various assignments. So we'll meet virtually a few times, 1 or 2 times a month for 1 or 2 hours a piece to have some small group discussion, some participant-led book discussions, things of that nature. And then lastly, the executive level briefing that will take place in the executive week of the program. Great question, Mike, in the chat. What book? Simone, do you know offhand what book the LEAP program uses?
So we are looking into some different options for FY25, and we are leaning towards Leaders Eat Last for FY25 by Simon Sinek.
Great, fantastic book. So it sounds like that's still being solidified, but one of the options here is Leaders Eat Last. All right, thank you. Got some enthusiasm for that topic. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, let's talk a little bit more in depth about some of the program requirements. So there is some travel involved, 3 in-person sessions. As I mentioned, we do have funding currently, but that is subject to change. But as of this moment, we are planning to hold these in-person sessions. So first off, that'll be Foundations Week in June. That'll take place in Baltimore. Assessment Week will take place in September. The location for that is to be determined. And then lastly, our Executive Week will be in Washington, D.C., and that will take place in November. So what you can expect during these in-person sessions is, of course, some lecture, some group discussion, some hands-on scenario and role play type of teaching moments. And it is, although there is lecture in certain portions of the residential portions, you will have plenty of opportunity to apply that in the real world setting when it comes to your developmental detail. So again, we have the monthly intersessions and assignments. So these will be held virtually, so no travel associated with the intersessions, but just want to make you aware of some of the time requirements that this program will ask of you, so you can know what to expect. And again, that will be twice monthly. And a 45 to 60 day developmental detail. Again, as far as if these details involve travel, will be specific to your scenario and the detail that you are seeking. HCS does not provide funding for the detail, but in the event that your station and or the station to which you're being detailed has funding for that, then travel could be involved. So that's, again, on a case-by-case basis. You'll also have the opportunity for some executive interviews. Now, this is a very unique experience where you get that one-on-one time with these executives to really pick their brain and ask about their experience and really learn from what they have already learned and help you grow in that regard. And then lastly, the executive level briefing. This is an opportunity to really put your public speaking skills to the test. I know that can be such a challenge for many of us, but you can't get better unless you do it. So this is a real fantastic opportunity to grow in that area. Okay, so we answered the question in the chat about the detail and the time in person or virtual. So thank you for asking that. How many will be selected? And Simone responded to that, about 25 per cohort. So that's what we generally look at. Okay, great. Keep those questions coming in the chat if you have them. So some things to consider about as you are asking yourself if this is a good fit for you. We are really looking for people that have a passion for leading others and really growing in their leadership capacity here within VBA to ultimately support veterans that we serve. We want participants who have a growth mindset and are interested in continual learning. The classroom environment, some of those situations you'll be faced in your detail, they're really going to ask you to dig deeper and take that inside look at yourself, take an honest look at yourself about any skill gaps that you might have, and really put intentional effort into growing. We want to attract individuals who thrive on challenges when it comes to looking for those positions of increased responsibility. The goal here is to help you take that next step and really step into the next leadership position, or maybe your first leadership position at a higher level, to lead the agency and to lead within the agency and lead others. And also, we are looking for those who want to build relationships, build their network, and learn from one another, learn from others' experience, and also be vulnerable in sharing your own experience. Because in so many cases, we learn from others, and it's helpful for others to learn from us. So be open and be willing to share a bit of yourself in this environment. Next slide, please. If you have any questions about anything we've covered so far during the application process, please feel free to reach out to me. We have a SharePoint site for LEAP and all of the associated program documents, as well as the link to the application. And that link is in the chat. Thank you, Simone. Those items will not be posted until Monday, though. The applications will open on Monday, February the 3rd. So please look to that SharePoint site to access all of that information. But again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I would be happy to answer anything one-on-one. So let's talk now about some of the application requirements. The application is going to be online. It's going to take place through a Microsoft Forms format. So that's what you'll look for. It consists of several essay questions. So I think there are 3 essay questions for LEAP. And we also want you to submit your resume, but please no longer than 5 pages. So if it is currently in excess of 5 pages, now's the time to start trimming that down, work on some brevity with your words, and really look to include things that will make you a good candidate for this program. As I mentioned, you will be asked to upload 2 prior performance evaluations for the fiscal year 24 and 23 into the application portal. And then we will ask you for information about your current immediate supervisor, as well as your executive director or designee. Now, that's going to be different for each of you based upon where you work. So please check with your leadership chain of command about who they would like you to designate for that final approver role. And I would highly encourage you all to start a conversation now with your leadership if you are interested in this program, to let them know that you are considering it, and that can help you gauge whether they support your participation or not. And as we'll see in a couple of slides, they are asked to evaluate you and kind of make a recommendation about your readiness for this program. So kind of having an idea of their assessment before you put in all the time and work into the application is a great conversation to have. So let's go ahead to the next slide. And I do see all these questions in the chat. We will certainly get to those. Don't think we're not ignoring you, but we'll get through the content first, and then we'll revisit the questions, unless, of course, Ms. Simone responds directly to you in the chat. So let's talk about some of the rating criteria for how the applications are evaluated. Part 1 includes the resume review, and this is 30% of your score. And we're going to be looking at the things on the bulleted section. So this is how you kind of want to make sure you emphasize these things within your resume. So how your employment has progressed. What positions have you held over the course of your career? What about any special assignments or details? Have you had any of that? If so, please emphasize them. Any results that you've achieved throughout, any awards you've received or honors, special training or development assignments you've engaged in, and overall the professional appearance of your resume. So those are the considerations that you'll want to take as you update that resume. Part 2 is going to be the essay score. So this will be 30%. It will be a review of each of those essay responses, and there'll be a maximum of 5 points per question. Part 3 is going to be based upon your immediate supervisor's evaluation of some specific competencies. And again, the competencies that you'll be evaluated upon will be shown in the documents that are posted on Monday. That there will be a applicant rating guide that will include the essay questions themselves, as well as the competencies upon which you'll be evaluated. So that will all be there for your awareness on Monday. And then finally, part 4. Part 4 is going to be your executive director or designee's recommendation for your readiness for this program. So the executive director or designee will be asked to make a selection of the highest possible recommendation, a strong recommendation, a recommendation, or that they do not recommend. So that will be 20% of your score. So all of these numbers will be compiled and then weighed according to this formula. And once we have all of everyone's scores compiled, we then do a review of how the numbers fell and make a cut score for the interview phase. So let's move on to the next slide and talk about timeline. So the due date for applications is February 28th. And try to, as best as possible, of course, you'll want to have your application in by then, but also encourage your supervisor and the executive director to have their evaluations completed by then as well. So therefore, you'll want to actually get your submission in. You don't wait till the last minute. This is what I'm saying, because there is some time we'll need time for the supervisor and for the executive director to complete their portion. So try to get all of that in and submitted before the 28th. We'll compile all the scores, review to see who is going to qualify for an interview, and we'll notify everybody of whether they've qualified for an interview or not by the 21st of March. Then the interviews will take place between March 24th and April 4th. And then during the month of April, we will submit our recommendations for selection to the Chief of Staff and other Deputy Undersecretaries. And then lastly, during the month of May, we'll seek Undersecretary for Benefits approval of the applicants. So expect to be notified no sooner than the month of May, whether or not you've been selected for the program. So for the panels, for the resume review panels and the essay question review panels, those are comprised of GS 15 leaders from central and regional offices, and the same for the interview panels. That'll be GS 15 from the field and central office. So, of course, we see all these questions flowing into the chat, and I'll have Simone come on camera to help us talk through any questions that we want to recap for the group that she may have addressed in the chat. But before we do that, I do want to also share that VA has a growing network of leadership program alumni. And whether you graduate from any of our national leadership programs, whether that's ELP, LEAD, LEAP, or ADDP, you will be a member of our alumni network. And we have a great program called Where Are They Now? And this program tracks graduates from the program and catches up with them on how they're doing since they have graduated. And so if you would like to listen to some interviews from prior LEAP graduates and hear what they're up to and how they're doing, feel free to check out that SharePoint that is in the chat now. Okay, so Simone, would you mind joining me on camera and we can talk through any of these questions? There are quite a few, so let's see what we can help everybody out with.
Sure. Yes, we have a lot of great questions, and I am capturing all of them, even ones that we've been able to get to. Some of the main questions, of course, had to do with what do the detail assignments look like and the 2-week shadowing rotation consist of. One question asks, let's see. If your supervisor has been here less than 90 days, who should we request for the evaluation? So I would think I would speak to your leadership chain of command. I think if they can they can provide you a designee on who they would feel is most appropriate to be able to evaluate you in those areas. And then the next question, what is the process of locating and securing the developmental detail? Is it organic to selectee and mentor? So that's really going to depend a lot of times. Yes, that's exactly how a lot of these things come to fruition, is working with the mentor that you are paired up with and working with the executive sponsors and working even with your leadership as well and coming up with, okay, what exactly are you looking to grow and where would that best happen. Of course, we do try to keep track of any and all open details that are available VBA wide and are sure to notify participants of those when they do come up. So the question, where do you find the application? I don't see it on the SharePoint site. That is done by design, of course. We will be publishing all of the information sheets and needs to knows for all of the applications, including the link to the application when the application period opens on Monday. So be on the lookout for that.
I'm seeing a couple of questions about individuals who have conflicts with some of the residency dates and things that they're not able to change and asking if they're excluded from applying. I would say that this might not be the best year for you, given that conflict. We do ask that one of the requirements for program completion is that you do attend those residency sessions. So it might be something that you want to consider for a future year. Of course, it's still great to review the content now or take a look at that application, get a sense of what you can do in the next year to set yourself up for success. But because that attendance is required, then I don't think going through the motions of applying would be beneficial at this time. And someone's asking about getting feedback from an application package that was submitted last year. I think, go ahead, Simone.
Yeah, certainly feel free to email us and we will get you that feedback.
Okay, great. And then are mentors assigned or do you find your own mentors? And we will match you with a mentor. So no need to go find your own. And are the essay questions timed responses? They are not. So the best practice that we recommend, because it is in a Microsoft form, you cannot save your work and return to it. So what we always recommend is that you take a look at the essay question, which will be posted in a Word document on the SharePoint when those go live. Take a look at that essay question, do your brainstorming, draft your response, maybe in a Word document somewhere you can save it and revise it, maybe get feedback from somebody who's a trusted peer, see what they think of it. Not required, but could be a best practice. And then when you're ready, then you can go into the Microsoft form and submit things, but there is no timed component there. And let's see, can we elaborate on the supervisory experience? So if you're currently a regional office employee, we do want you to have at least 1 year of supervisory experience under your belt. And I'm seeing some folks who have birthdays during Foundations Week. So that's something else to celebrate if you fall into that category. Okay, so we are up on time here. And as Simone mentioned, we have captured all of the questions. If we didn't answer yours directly, no fear, we will be putting them out in an FAQ document that will be posted to the SharePoint site. As soon as we can get all of that documented and sent forward, we will have that there. If you want to reach out to me individually, I am more than happy to speak with you and we can answer your question one-on-one. But I thank you so much for your time today. And I very much look forward to seeing some of you in the cohort this fiscal year. Thank you very much. And again, reach out if you have any questions.